The insomnia hit me hardest during the holidays. 3 a.m. on Christmas Eve, and I was wide awake in our Seattle penthouse, watching snow fall against the floor-to-ceiling windows while my wife Seren packed her overnight bag with the precision of a surgeon. "Another emergency offsite?" I asked, not bothering to hide the sarcasm in my voice. Pierce Eldro, tech consultant extraordinaire, reduced to watching his ambitious wife disappear on the most important night of the year. Seren Dreven Eldro didn't even look up from folding her silk blouses. At 36, she moved through our marriage with the same calculated efficiency she brought to her role as corporate strategist at Relin Industries. Every gesture deliberate, every word measured. "Hayes needs the quarterly projections finalized before the board meeting next week," she said, zipping the expensive leather suitcase I'd bought her for our anniversary. "You know how demanding he gets about deadlines." Hayes Relin. 44 years old, startup CEO with inherited money and the kind of smug confidence that came from never facing real consequences. I'd met him exactly 3 times at company functions, and each encounter left me wanting to wipe that entitled smirk off his face. "On Christmas Eve?" I pressed, settling deeper into my chair. "What kind of emergency requires flying to Vancouver for projections?" Seren's hand paused on the zipper for just a fraction of a second. Most people would have missed it, but I'd been married to this woman for 8 years. I caught every micro-expression, every tell. "The kind that pays for this apartment and your consulting business," she replied, her voice carrying that icy edge I'd grown to recognize. "Some of us can't afford to take holidays off." The dig landed exactly where she intended. My tech consulting brought in decent money, but nothing compared to her corporate salary and bonuses. In our social circle, I was the underachiever married above his station, the chronic insomniac who worked from home while his wife climbed the corporate ladder. "When will you be back?" I asked, already knowing I wouldn't get a straight answer. "Sunday, maybe Monday. Depends on how the sessions go." She checked her phone, and I caught the quick smile that crossed her face before she composed herself. "Don't wait up." Those 3 words had become her signature exit line over the past 6 months. Don't wait up, as if I had a choice with my screwed-up sleep schedule. I watched her gather her things with practiced efficiency, designer heels clicking against our hardwood floors, the sound echoing through our minimalist living space. Everything about Seren was sharp angles and cold surfaces, from our modern furniture to her perfectly styled blonde hair. "Need me to call you a cab?" I offered, though I already knew the answer. "Hayes is sending his driver." Another tell. She said his name too easily, too comfortably, like it belonged in her mouth. The driver arrived exactly at 4 a.m., because Hayes Relin was the kind of man who demanded punctuality even on holidays. Through our window, I watched Seren slide into the back seat of a black sedan, her silhouette disappearing into the pre-dawn darkness. I should have felt something stronger than mild curiosity. Rage, maybe. Heartbreak. Instead, I felt the familiar clarity that came with insomnia and suspicion finally aligning. My laptop was already open on the coffee table, a habit from too many sleepless nights spent working on client projects. But tonight, I had a different kind of research in mind. Seren thought I was oblivious to technology beyond my consulting work. She was wrong. 8 years in tech support and system administration had taught me exactly how to find information people thought they'd hidden. Her email account was still logged in on our shared tablet, the one we used for household management and shopping lists. She'd grown careless over the months, or maybe she wanted me to find out. Either way, the evidence was right there waiting for me. Flight confirmation, Seattle to Vancouver, departing 6:15 a.m. Christmas Day. Return flight, open-ended, flexible booking. Hotel reservation, 4 Seasons Vancouver, executive suite. 2 guests. Charged to Hayes Relin's Corporate American Express. The booking details made my chest tighten with something between anger and vindication. Not the budget business hotel you'd expect for a working off-site. not separate rooms for professional colleagues, an executive suite with champagne service and couples massage packages. I screenshot everything: boarding passes, room charges, even the text messages marked confidential off-site that she'd sent to someone listed as HR in her contacts. Hayes Relin, obviously, though she'd tried to disguise it as human resources. The timestamps told the real story: messages sent at midnight, during lunch breaks, late evenings when she claimed to be working. A pattern of communication that had nothing to do with quarterly projections and everything to do with planning a Christmas getaway. My phone buzzed with a text from Seren. Boarding now. See you Sunday. Love you. Love you. 2 words that had lost all meaning somewhere between her promotion 6 months ago and tonight's elaborate lie. I didn't respond immediately. Instead, I opened a new browser window and searched for Cleo Marver, Hayes Relin's wife. The internet made it easy to find people when you knew where to look. Cleo Marver Relin. 43 years old, CEO of Marver Industries, a family conglomerate worth more than Hayes could dream of earning. Old money, established power, and according to the business journals, a reputation for precision that made corporate rivals nervous. Her company profile showed a woman with sharp eyes and silver hair, the kind of executive who commanded boardrooms and crushed competitors without raising her voice. More importantly, according to the corporate filings I found, Marver Industries held controlling interest in Hayes' startup. His company existed at her discretion. I found her direct office number listed in the business directory. Most CEOs filtered calls through assistants, but something about Cleo's profile suggested she handled important matters personally. The call could wait until their plane landed. No point in ruining their flight when I could ruin their entire trip instead. I spent the next few hours documenting everything. Screenshots organized in folders, timeline established, evidence compiled with the same methodical approach I brought to debugging client systems. By the time the sun rose over Seattle, I had a complete picture of my wife's deception. My phone showed their flight status: landed in Vancouver, 8:47 a.m. local time. They'd be checking into their executive suite right about now, probably laughing about how easy it was to fool the oblivious husband. Time to make my first move. Cleo Marver answered on the second ring, her voice crisp and professional despite the early hour. Cleo Marver. Mrs. Marver, my name is Pierce Eldro. I'm calling about your husband and my wife, Seren Dreven Eldro. I believe they're currently in Vancouver together, and I think you should know about it. Silence. Not the shocked silence of someone receiving devastating news, but the calculating quiet of someone processing information. Go on, she said finally. I explained the timeline methodically. The late nights, the emergency off-site story, the flight bookings and hotel reservations. I offered to send her the evidence I'd compiled. Send everything to my personal email, she said, providing an address. I'll verify the charges against our corporate accounts and get back to you within the hour. No drama, no emotional outburst. Just business-like efficiency that reminded me why she ran a successful company while her husband played startup CEO with her money. What are you planning to do? I asked. Nothing illegal, nothing permanent. But Mr. Eldro, when I handle something, I handle it completely. Are you prepared for that? The question hung in the air between us. Was I ready to watch my marriage implode? Was I prepared to see Seren face real consequences for the first time in her privileged life? Yes, I said without hesitation. I'm ready. Good. Send me those files and don't contact your wife until I tell you otherwise. This needs to be handled correctly. The line went quiet, and I found myself staring at my phone with something that felt dangerously close to anticipation. Seren had always been the planner in our relationship, the one who thought 3 steps ahead while I stumbled through day-to-day existence. But she'd made one crucial mistake. She'd underestimated the insomniac husband who noticed everything and forgot nothing. I sent Cleo the compiled evidence and settled in to wait. Outside our windows, Seattle was waking up to Christmas morning, families gathering for presents and holiday meals. Inside our empty apartment, I was finally getting the gift I'd been waiting for, the chance to watch my wife's carefully constructed lies collapse around her. Cleo called back in 47 minutes, exactly as promised. Her voice carried a different edge now, sharp with controlled fury that made me glad I wasn't Hayes Rellin. "I've verified everything against our corporate accounts," she said without preamble. "The hotel charges, the flight bookings, even dinner reservations at restaurants that cost more than most people's rent, all charged to company cards without authorization." "What does that mean legally?" I asked, though I suspected I already knew. "It means Hayes has been embezzling company funds for personal use. The board takes that very seriously, especially when it involves adultery with a subordinate contractor." Her laugh was cold as winter wind. "Your wife's consulting contract with our subsidiary makes this a textbook case of workplace misconduct." Through my laptop, I tracked their location using the hotel's social media check-ins. Seren had posted a photo of champagne glasses against Vancouver's skyline, tagged with "working hard on Christmas morning." The comments from her work friends were full of heart emojis and "you deserve it, girl" responses. "They're living it up right now," I told Cleo, reading the timestamp on Serene's latest post. "Room service, champagne, the full romantic getaway experience." "Not for much longer. I'm implementing immediate financial controls as we speak. All corporate cards associated with Hayes are being frozen, expense account privileges revoked, and hotel authorizations canceled. The Four Seasons will be very interested to know their guarantee of payment just evaporated." The vindication felt better than I'd expected. After months of watching Seren treat me like an afterthought while she planned her escape with her boss, the idea of them facing real consequences was intoxicating. "How long before they realize what's happening?" I asked. "Hotel checkout is usually noon. They'll discover their cards don't work when they try to extend their stay or pay for room service. Should be interesting." My phone buzzed with an incoming call from Seren. I showed Cleo the caller ID through our video connection. "Don't answer," she instructed. "Let them panic for a while. Fear makes people reveal their true character." The call went to voicemail, then another. By the third missed call, I was genuinely curious what story Seren would construct to explain their predicament. "Pierce, call me back immediately," her voicemail message began, her usual composed tone cracking around the edges. "There's been some kind of banking error with the company accounts. Hayes says it might be a security freeze because of the holiday weekend. We need you to wire us money for the hotel bill. Call me back." Cleo's laughter was genuinely amused. "Banking error. That's creative. What's she asking for?" I checked the follow-up text messages that were flooding my phone. $3,000 for the hotel bill, plus another $2,000 for expenses until they can sort out the banking situation on Tuesday. $5,000 to fund their romantic getaway. Your wife has impressive nerve. The phone rang again. This time I answered, putting it on speaker so Cleo could hear. "Pierce, thank goodness." Seren's voice was strained, the careful control she usually maintained starting to slip. "Did you get my messages?" "I got them. Banking error, you said?" "Something with the corporate accounts. Hayes is on the phone with finance right now, but you know how these things are during holidays. Nobody's available to fix it immediately." In the background, I could hear Hayes' voice raised in frustration, though I couldn't make out the words. He didn't sound like a man having a casual conversation with finance. He sounded like someone whose credit cards had just been declined at the worst possible moment. "So you need me to wire you $5,000, I said, keeping my voice neutral. "Just temporarily. Hayes will reimburse you as soon as this banking thing gets resolved. You know I wouldn't ask if it wasn't important. Important. Like funding her affair was some kind of emergency that required my immediate financial assistance. Where exactly are you, Seren? For the wire transfer, I mean. I'll need a location." Silence. She hadn't expected me to ask for specifics, probably assuming I'd just send money without questions like I had so many times before. "We're at the Four Seasons, Vancouver," she said finally. "The business center here can receive wire transfers." The Four Seasons, for a work meeting. It's where the client requested we meet. You know how these corporate types are about their accommodations. The lies were getting more elaborate by the minute. I looked at Cleo through our video call, and she was shaking her head with something that looked like professional disappointment. "I'll see what I can do," I told Serene. "Give me a few hours to arrange the transfer." "A few hours? Pierce, they're threatening to lock us out of the room if we don't settle the bill by checkout time. Can't you just send it now?" The desperation in her voice was new. Seren Dreven-Eldro, who planned every detail of her life with corporate precision, was begging her husband to bail her out of a situation she'd created with her lover. "Banking systems are slow during holidays," I said, using her own excuse. "I'll handle it as soon as possible." I ended the call before she could argue further. Cleo was grinning with the kind of satisfaction that came from watching a well-executed plan unfold. "You're enjoying this," she observed. "More than I should, probably. What happens next?" "Next, we let them experience some natural consequences. The hotel will want payment for their extended stay. Their return flights were booked on company cards that no longer work. They're stranded in a foreign country with no money and no way home. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories." My laptop chimed with a notification. Seren had deleted her social media post about working hard on Christmas morning. The champagne glasses and skyline view had disappeared from her timeline, replaced with radio silence. "She's trying to cover her tracks," I noted, showing Cleo the deleted post. "Too late for that. I've already screenshot everything for the board meeting. Hayes won't be employed by Tuesday, and your wife's consulting contract will be terminated for ethics violations." The phone rang again. Hayes, this time calling from Seren's phone. I answered immediately, curious to hear how he'd handle the situation. "Pierce, this is Hayes Rellin. I think there's been some kind of misunderstanding." His voice carried the entitled confidence of someone accustomed to talking his way out of problems. Rich boy charm mixed with corporate authority, the combination that had probably gotten him out of trouble his entire life. "What kind of misunderstanding?" I asked. "There's been a freeze on some of our corporate accounts, probably a security measure because of unusual holiday activity. Seren mentioned you might be able to help with a temporary loan until we get this sorted out." Temporary loan. As if I was some kind of bank that existed to fund his affair with my wife. "How much are we talking about?" I asked, though Cleo had already told me the amount. "5,000 should cover everything. Hotel, meals, flights home. I'll have my accountant cut you a check as soon as we're back in Seattle." "Your accountant," I repeated. "The same one who handles your corporate expense reports?" A pause. Hayes was smart enough to recognize a trap when he heard one, but not smart enough to avoid walking into it. "Look, Pierce, I know this is awkward. Seren's a valuable member of our team, and this off-site meeting was crucial for our Q1 strategy. I wouldn't ask if it wasn't important business." Important business. The same phrase Seren had used, like they'd coordinated their story beforehand, which, of course, they had. "I'll consider it," I said. "Give me your direct number so I can call you back with my decision." He provided his personal cell, probably thinking he was building trust by giving me direct access. In reality, he was just confirming that he and Seren were coordinating their lies from the same hotel room. After I hung up, Cleo and I spent a few minutes planning the next phase. She'd already contacted hotel security to inform them that Hayes no longer had corporate authorization for charges. The Four Seasons would be very interested to collect payment before allowing any extended stay. "What about their return flights?" I asked. "Canceled when the corporate cards were frozen. They'll need to book new tickets with personal funds they don't have." My phone buzzed with a text message from Seren. Please hurry with the wire transfer. They're asking us to settle our account immediately. Instead of responding with words, I opened my camera app and took a selfie. Me, sitting in our expensive living room, coffee mug in hand, looking relaxed and comfortable. I sent it without caption. What was that about? Cleo asked. Just letting her know I'm thinking of her. The response came immediately. This isn't funny, Pierce. We're in a serious situation here. I took another selfie, this time with a slight smile, and sent it with the caption, Merry Christmas from Seattle. My phone started ringing immediately, but I declined the call. Then another. Declined again. You're torturing them, Cleo observed. They tortured me for months with their lies. Fair is fair. The texts were coming faster now, Seren's usual composed messaging style deteriorating into increasingly frantic demands. Answer your phone. This is an emergency. Hayes says the hotel is threatening to call security. Pierce, please, I'm begging you. That last message stopped me cold. Seren Dreven Eldro had never begged for anything in her life. She demanded, negotiated, manipulated, but she didn't beg. She's breaking, I told Cleo. Good. People make their worst decisions when they're desperate. Let's see what she does next. We didn't have to wait long. My phone rang with a call from an unknown Vancouver number. Pierce? Seren's voice was shaky now, the corporate composure completely gone. I'm calling from the hotel lobby. They've locked us out of our room until we pay the bill. That sounds stressful, I said, keeping my tone conversational. Don't do this. Whatever you think is happening here, you're wrong. This is a legitimate business trip that got complicated by banking issues. What do I think is happening, Seren? Silence. She'd walked into another trap, and we both knew it. I think you're confused about the situation, she said finally. Hayes and I are colleagues working on an important project. Colleagues who share an executive suite on Christmas morning? The silence stretched longer this time. In the background, I could hear hotel staff discussing account settlements and security protocols. How did you, she started, then caught herself. How did I know about the executive suite? About the champagne service and couples massage packages? About the romantic dinner reservations charged to Hayes's corporate card? Pierce, let me explain. No need. I understand the situation perfectly. You and Hayes planned a romantic Christmas getaway, funded by his wife's company, and now you're stranded because the money ran out. It's not what you think. It's exactly what I think. And Seren, I'm not sending you a dime. I ended the call and immediately blocked the hotel number. Cleo was watching me with something that looked like approval. How do you feel? She asked. Like I've been holding my breath for months and can finally exhale. Good. Because we're just getting started. The social media storm began exactly as Cleo predicted. By Sunday afternoon, Seren's carefully curated professional image was cracking under the weight of her own lies. Her LinkedIn profile, once a monument to corporate achievement and strategic thinking, became a source of unintentional comedy as colleagues started connecting the dots. The working hard on Christmas morning post she deleted was screenshot and shared by someone before it disappeared, creating questions she couldn't answer without admitting the truth. Looks like an amazing work session, commented Tara Mills, one of Seren's work friends. That champagne looks well-deserved. Such dedication to the job, added another colleague. Wish my company sent me to the Four Seasons for off-site meetings. The comments kept coming, each one more pointed than the last. Serene's professional network was slowly realizing that her emergency business trip looked suspiciously like a romantic getaway, and they were enjoying the drama. I was monitoring everything from our apartment, tracking the digital breadcrumbs of their Vancouver disaster, while Cleo coordinated the corporate response from her office. She'd called an emergency board meeting for Monday morning, citing urgent financial irregularities that require immediate attention. Hayes has been trying to reach me all weekend, she told me during one of our regular check-ins. 17 voicemails so far, each one more desperate than the last. What's he saying? Everything from claiming his cards were hacked to blaming Seren for seducing him into the trip. He's throwing her under the bus to save his own career. That revelation shouldn't have surprised me, but it still stung. Seren had risked our marriage for a man who wouldn't hesitate to sacrifice her when things got difficult. My phone buzzed with another message from an unknown number. Seren had found a way to keep contacting me despite my blocks. Pierce, Hayes says his wife is behind the account freeze. He thinks you called her. Please tell me you didn't do something that stupid. Something that stupid. Even stranded and desperate, she was still insulting my intelligence. I screenshot her message and sent it to Cleo with a note. She figured it out. Doesn't matter now, Cleo replied. The damage is done. They're stuck in Vancouver until they can afford flights home, and Hayes won't have a job to return to anyway. The Monday morning board meeting was scheduled for 9 a.m. Pacific time. Cleo had invited me to observe via video conference, partly for my testimony about the timeline and partly because she thought I deserved to watch Hayes face consequences. At 8:30, my phone rang with a call from Serene. I almost declined it, but curiosity won. Pierce, please listen to me. Her voice was exhausted, the fight mostly gone out of her. We're at the Vancouver airport. Hayes managed to get us standby tickets on a flight that lands in Seattle at noon. Congratulations, I said. Have a safe trip. That's it? That's all you're going to say? What else is there to say, Seren? You lied to me, used company money to fund an affair, and now you're facing the consequences. This is what accountability looks like. You ruined my career. Hayes says Cleo is firing him today, and my consulting contract will be terminated too. 8 years of building my reputation, gone because you couldn't handle me having a work relationship. Work relationship. She was still trying to minimize what had happened, even now. You ruined your own career the moment you decided to steal company funds for a romantic trip with your boss. I just made sure the right people found out about it. I never stole anything. Those were legitimate business expenses. Executive suite, champagne service, couples massage, very legitimate. Silence. She'd run out of lies that sounded even remotely plausible. What do you want from me, Pierce? An apology? Fine, I'm sorry. I'm sorry I hurt you. I'm sorry about the lies. I'm sorry about everything. Can we fix this? The apology felt hollow, extracted under pressure rather than offered from genuine remorse. But there was something else in her voice now, something that sounded like real fear. What are you afraid of, Seren? I'm afraid of losing everything. My job, my reputation, my marriage. I made a mistake, but it doesn't have to destroy my entire life. It wasn't a mistake. Mistakes are accidental. This was months of planning, lying, and stealing. You made deliberate choices, and now you get to live with them. Pierce, please, I'll do anything to fix this. Anything. The word hung between us, loaded with implications and desperation. There's nothing to fix. You chose Hayes over our marriage. You chose lies over honesty. You chose to steal money rather than pay for your affair with your own funds. These weren't mistakes. They were character reveals. I ended the call as Cleo's video conference invitation appeared on my laptop. Time to watch Hayes Relin face the music. The boardroom at Marver Industries was exactly what I'd expected. Mahogany table, leather chairs, and serious-faced executives who controlled millions of dollars in corporate assets. Hayes appeared via video from what looked like the Vancouver airport, his usual confident demeanor replaced by obvious panic. Ladies and gentlemen, Cleo began, her voice carrying the authority of someone who'd run boardrooms for decades. We're here to address financial irregularities in our subsidiary operations, specifically unauthorized use of corporate funds by Hayes Relin. She presented the evidence methodically. Hotel charges, flight bookings, restaurant bills, all charged to company accounts, without proper authorization. The amounts weren't huge by corporate standards, but the patterns showed deliberate misuse of company resources for personal purposes. Mr. Relin, she continued, you charged over $8,000 in personal expenses to company accounts over the past 3 months, culminating in this weekend's Vancouver trip with a female contractor who is not your wife. Hayes tried to interrupt, but Cleo cut him off with a gesture. The contractor in question, Seren Dreven Eldro, was hired specifically to work on projects you supervised. This creates a clear conflict of interest and potential liability for the company. Cleo, let me explain. Hayes started. There's nothing to explain. The evidence is clear, the timeline is documented, and your actions constitute both embezzlement and workplace misconduct. The board members asked pointed questions about financial controls and oversight procedures. Hayes's answers became increasingly defensive and contradictory as the meeting progressed. He blamed accounting errors, claimed the charges were pre-approved, and even suggested that Seren had manipulated him into the relationship. So your defense, one board member summarized, is that you were seduced into embezzling company funds by a contractor you hired? It's not embezzlement if the expenses were business-related, Hayes replied weakly. Executive suite at the Four Seasons on Christmas morning is business-related? Another board member asked. We needed privacy for sensitive strategic discussions. The room fell silent. Even Hayes seemed to realize how ridiculous that sounded. Cleo called for a vote on Hayes's termination. It was unanimous. Mr. Relin, your employment is terminated effective immediately. Your corporate accounts are frozen, your office access is revoked, and security will escort you from company premises when you return to Seattle. Additionally, we're referring this matter to law enforcement for investigation of potential embezzlement charges. Hayes's face went white on the video screen. Cleo, you can't do this. We've been married for 12 years. You know me. I thought I knew you. Apparently I was wrong. The meeting ended, with Hayes still protesting from the airport, his voice growing smaller as board members logged off one by one. How do you feel? Cleo asked me after the others had disconnected. Like justice actually exists sometimes. What about Seren? What about her? She made her choice. Now she gets to live with it. My phone was buzzing with incoming calls and messages, but I ignored them all. Seren and Hayes were probably trying to coordinate damage control, but it was too late for that. The story was already spreading through their professional networks. Social media posts were being analyzed, timelines reconstructed, and reputations destroyed in real time. By evening, Seren Dreven Eldro would be known as the contractor who seduced her married boss into embezzling company funds for their affair. Hayes Relin would be the entitled CEO who threw away his career and marriage for a Christmas fling, and Pierce Eldro would be the wronged husband who'd outmaneuvered them both without breaking a single law. The apartment felt different now, quieter, but not empty. For the first time in months, I wasn't wondering where Seren really was or what lies she was telling. I knew exactly where she was and what she was facing. Outside the windows, Seattle was settling into a cold December evening. Inside, I was finally getting some sleep. Seren returned to Seattle on Tuesday afternoon, but she didn't come home. Instead, she went directly to Tara Mills's apartment in Capitol Hill, probably hoping her work friend would provide sanctuary while she figured out her next move. That sanctuary lasted exactly 4 hours. Tara called me at 6 p.m., her voice tight with the kind of anger that comes from feeling manipulated by someone you trusted. Pierce, this is Tara Mills from Seren's office. She's here at my place, and I think you need to know what she's been telling people. What's she saying? That you sabotaged her career out of jealousy, that the Vancouver trip was legitimate business that you misrepresented to Hayes's wife, that she's the victim of a vindictive husband who couldn't handle her success. The revisionist history didn't surprise me. Seren had always been skilled at reframing situations to cast herself as the wronged party. "What do you think about her story?" I asked. "I think it's garbage. I saw her social media posts from Vancouver. I saw the hotel charges when she bragged about them at the office Christmas party. Nobody books the Four Seasons executive suite for quarterly projections." Tara's voice carried genuine hurt underneath the anger. She'd considered Seren a friend, maybe even a mentor, and discovering the lies felt like a personal betrayal. "She's been using all of us as cover for months," Tara continued. "All those late nights she claimed were work sessions, all the weekend emergency meetings that required her to be unreachable. We provided her alibis without knowing it. I'm sorry you got dragged into this. Don't apologize. You didn't lie to me for 6 months." "She did." A pause, then, "Pierce, she's asking to stay here while she looks for a new apartment. She says you changed the locks and won't let her get her things." I had changed the locks, but not to keep her out permanently. I'd done it to control the timing of our final confrontation. Seren needed to understand that her old life was over before she could start negotiating terms for whatever came next. "Her things are packed and ready," I told Tara. "She can pick them up any time, but we're going to have a conversation first." She says you'll just yell at her. I don't yell, but I do want answers, and I want them without the corporate spin she's been giving everyone else. Tara was quiet for a moment, probably weighing her loyalty to Serene against her growing understanding of what had really happened. "She's scared, Pierce. Really scared. I've never seen her like this." "She should be scared. Her career is over, her reputation is destroyed, and she's facing potential legal consequences for the embezzlement charges. Fear is the appropriate response." "Will you talk to her? Not to fix things, just to, I don't know, provide some closure?" I considered it. Part of me wanted to avoid Seren entirely, to let lawyers handle the divorce proceedings and never see her again. But another part wanted to look her in the eye and hear her try to justify what she'd done. "Tell her to be at our apartment tomorrow at noon, alone. If she brings Hayes or a lawyer or anyone else, the conversation doesn't happen." "I'll tell her." After Tara hung up, I spent the evening preparing for what would probably be my last real conversation with the woman I'd been married to for 8 years. I gathered all the evidence I'd compiled, printed out the financial records Cleo had shared, and organized everything chronologically. If Seren wanted to keep lying, she'd have to do it while staring at proof of her deception. She arrived exactly at noon, looking smaller somehow than she had just a week earlier. The corporate power suits had been replaced by jeans and a sweater, her usual perfect styling abandoned for a more human appearance that might have been calculated or might have been genuine exhaustion. "The locks," she said, standing in the hallway outside our apartment. "The locks," I agreed, opening the door to let her in. She moved through our living space like a stranger, touching surfaces and examining details as if seeing them for the first time. Maybe she was. Maybe she'd been so focused on her exit strategy that she'd stopped noticing the life she was leaving behind. "You packed everything," she observed, noting the boxes stacked neatly by the door. "Everything that's yours. Clothes, personal items, the jewelry your mother gave you. I kept the things we bought together." "That's fair, I guess." We stood there for a moment, two people who'd shared a life trying to figure out how to end it with some dignity intact. "Tara says you want to talk," Serene said finally. "I want to understand. Not forgive, not reconcile, just understand. Why Hayes? Why the lies? Why not just ask for a divorce if you were unhappy?" She moved to the window, looking out at the Seattle skyline the way she had so many mornings when she was planning her day. But now she was planning her exit from a life that no longer existed. "Hayes made me feel important," she said quietly. "Not just professionally, but personally, like I was someone worth taking risks for." "And I didn't?" "You made me feel safe, comfortable, but not exciting." The honesty was brutal and probably necessary. We'd both known our marriage had become routine, but I'd assumed that was normal after 8 years together. So, you decided to have an affair instead of talking to me about it. I decided to see where things went with Hayes. The affair part just happened. For 6 months. For 6 months, she agreed, using stolen money. It wasn't stolen. Hayes said the company would cover everything as business expenses. Did you believe that? She was quiet for a long time, still staring out the window at a city where her reputation was now permanently damaged. I wanted to believe it, she said finally. I wanted to believe that someone like Hayes would risk everything for me, that I was worth the risk. And now? Now I know that Hayes throws people away when they become inconvenient. He's been calling me non-stop since Monday, trying to get me to take full responsibility for the Vancouver trip. He wants me to tell the board that I seduced him into it. The revelation didn't surprise me, but it still made me angry on her behalf. Hayes had pursued her, used company money to fund their affair, and now wanted her to destroy herself to save his reputation. Are you going to do it? No, I'm not taking the blame for his choices, but I'm also not pretending this was all his idea. We both knew what we were doing. It was the first completely honest thing she'd said to me in months. What happens now? I asked. Now I try to rebuild my life from nothing. New city, probably. New career, definitely. New identity as the woman who destroyed her marriage and career for a man who abandoned her the moment things got difficult. You could fight the embezzlement charges, claim you didn't know the expenses were unauthorized. I could, but we both know I did know. Maybe not legally, but morally. I knew we were stealing from his wife's company to fund our affair. The admission hung between us, honest and damaging, and probably the closest thing to an apology I was going to get. I'm sorry, Pierce. Not sorry I got caught, not sorry about the consequences, but sorry that I hurt you. You deserved better than lies and betrayal. Yes, I did. Will you be okay? The question surprised me. After everything that had happened, she was still concerned about my well-being. I'll be fine. Better than fine, probably. I've been living with suspicion and lies for months. At least now I know the truth. She nodded and moved toward the boxes by the door. I should go. Tara's letting me stay until I figure out my next move. Seren? She turned back, and for a moment she looked like the woman I'd married 8 years ago. Younger, more vulnerable, less certain about her place in the world. For what it's worth, I hope you find whatever you were looking for with Hayes. I hope it was worth what it cost. It wasn't, she said quietly. But that's not your problem anymore. She took 2 of the smaller boxes, leaving the rest for a second trip she'd probably send movers to handle. I watched her walk down the hallway toward the elevator, carrying the remnants of a life she'd chosen to destroy. The apartment felt different after she left. Not empty, but cleared. Like a space that had been cluttered with lies, and half-truths had finally been organized and cleaned. I called Cleo to let her know the conversation had happened. How do you feel? She asked. Like I can finally move forward. What about Hayes? Hayes is discovering that burning bridges has consequences. The embezzlement investigation is moving forward, his professional reputation is destroyed, and I've filed for divorce. He'll be lucky if he avoids criminal charges. And Seren? Her consulting contract was terminated for ethics violations, but she won't face criminal charges unless the investigation reveals something we haven't found yet. She's free to rebuild her life, assuming she can find someone willing to hire her. Outside my windows, Seattle was settling into another winter evening. But inside our apartment, my apartment now, I was finally getting the sleep I'd been missing for months. The insomnia was gone, replaced by the deep rest that comes with knowing the truth and watching justice prevail. Seren and Hayes had gambled everything on a Christmas affair funded by stolen money. They'd lost, I'd won. And for the first time in months, that felt like enough.